It happened late one winter night in London. The once untouchable goddess of Hollywood, Ava Gardner, lay alone in her apartment, the sound of rain tapping softly against the window. The woman who had once commanded red carpets and broken hearts across continents was now frail, clutching a glass of whiskey, her emerald eyes dim but still hypnotic. When a nurse entered the room, she found Ava whispering to herself, not in regret, but with a strange smile. "I lived," she murmured. And indeed, she had, wildly, passionately, recklessly. That final whisper captured the essence of a woman who never played by the rules, who defied the system that tried to tame her. But before the glamour and the scandal, there was a barefoot girl from North Carolina who never imagined she'd one day rule the world. Her story began in a small town called Grabtown in 1922. A place of dusty roads and simple dreams. Ava Lavinia Gardner grew up the youngest of 7 children in a poor farming family. Her father was a kind man with a gentle soul, her mother strong and practical, holding the family together through hardship. They didn't have much, just faith, music, and love. Ava's beauty was apparent early, but it wasn't something she flaunted. Neighbors described her as shy, barefoot, and endlessly curious. Her accent was thick, her manners modest, but her spirit, oh, her spirit burned like something the world hadn't yet seen. Fate found her in the most unexpected way. When she was just a teenager, her brother-in-law, a photographer, took a portrait of her and displayed it in his New York studio window. One day, a talent scout from MGM walked by, drawn to that haunting gaze staring back at him from the glass. Within weeks, Ava was on a train to Hollywood, her southern innocence tucked beside her suitcase and dreams she didn't yet understand. The studio executives were dazzled by her beauty but frustrated by her voice. They sent her to diction lessons to soften that rural twang. But what they couldn't teach her was presence. When she looked into a camera, she didn't just act, she lived out. In the early years, Ava struggled. She was cast mostly in small parts, her name buried in the credits. Yet, even in the background, she stole scenes. Her breakout came with The Killers in 1946, where she played the femme fatale opposite Burt Lancaster. The camera adored her, every glance, every whisper carried the weight of danger and desire. Overnight, she became Hollywood's ultimate siren. But behind that smoldering allure was a young woman battling to prove she was more than just a pretty face. She read voraciously, studied acting, and refused to let the studio control her personal life, and that personal life would become the stuff of legend. Ava Gardner was irresistible, not because she tried to be, but because she lived without apology. Her first marriage, to Mickey Rooney, was short and chaotic. He was Hollywood's golden boy, but his flirtations and immaturity left her disillusioned. Her second marriage, to bandleader Artie Shaw, was more intellectual but equally stormy. He criticized her background, her lack of formal education, her accent. Ava, proud and fiery, walked away rather than change who she was. But it was her third marriage that would define her in the eyes of the world, the volatile, passionate, and endlessly complicated love affair with Frank Sinatra. Their connection was instant and explosive. They fought, they forgave, they adored, they destroyed. The press followed their every move, their every tear. Frank left his wife for Ava, and Hollywood turned on her, branding her a temptress, a homewrecker. Yet, through the scandal and heartbreak, their love burned bright, impossible to extinguish. He was the love of my life, she would later admit, but it was a love that couldn't last. They divorced in 1957, but their bond endured for decades. He would send her flowers every year on her birthday, even when oceans separated them. At the height of her fame, Ava Gardner was everywhere: Magambo, the barefoot Contessa, the Night of the Iguana. She was the ultimate star, sensual yet untamed, confident yet deeply human. She moved through life like a storm, leaving stories in her wake, dancing barefoot through Madrid streets, defying directors who tried to tame her, and living by her own code. She once said, "I have only one rule in acting: trust the camera and never lie." That honesty, that refusal to pretend, made her magnetic, but Hollywood is cruel to those who refuse to conform. As she aged, roles became fewer. The industry that once worshipped her beauty now turned its gaze elsewhere. Ava, defiant as ever, left America and made Spain her home. There, she found solace among artists, bullfighters, and poets. She drank too much, loved too deeply, and laughed too loudly. "Maybe I'm not the girl next door," she once joked, "but I'm the girl down the street with a story you'll never forget." Yet time catches even the fiercest spirit. Years of smoking, drinking, and heartbreak took their toll. In the 1980s, she suffered a stroke that left her partially paralyzed. She refused pity. Instead, she faced each day with the same fire she'd always had. Friends described her as sharp, funny, and still devastatingly beautiful in her 70s. One of her last photographs shows her sitting by a window, her hair silver, her eyes distant but alive. It's not the glamorous Ava of the barefoot Contessa, it's the real woman, unguarded. Her beauty deeper than ever. Ava Gardner passed away in 1990 at the age of 67. Frank Sinatra reportedly broke down when he heard the news, sending a private plane to bring her body home. Her life, filled with triumph and turmoil, ended quietly, far from the flashbulbs that once defined her. But her legacy? It never faded. She redefined what it meant to be a woman in Hollywood, unapologetic, flawed, and free. She was the embodiment of raw beauty, the kind that doesn't fade when the lights go out. When we look at her most private photos now, those unposed, unguarded moments, we see the truth of Ava Gardner. Not the studio-crafted goddess, but the girl who chased love, defied control, and lived her life on her own terms. In every picture, there's that spark of rebellion, that haunting hint of sadness, that unforgettable honesty. So, the next time you see Ava Gardner's name, remember the woman behind the myth, the barefoot dreamer who became a legend, and the legend who never stopped being human. Her story reminds us that true beauty lies not in perfection, but in the courage to live without fear. If her journey touched you, if her strength and vulnerability still shine through her photographs, honor her memory by keeping her story alive. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more untold stories of Hollywood's greatest icons, because behind every glamorous face lies a soul worth remembering.